Shut up and sit down.
We are back inside Wisconsin. Trevor Thomas, Mark Baden, Luke Sampe. It is the hour-long Wisconsin weather conversation. It's time for this week's top 5 list. I gave these guys a heads up that I wanted to talk about the top 5 weather events that we may all remember since Mark got here in 1997. I wrote down some weather events that I remember, and I'm curious to know if there's any that stick out in your head. So maybe we'll start this top 5 list with my number 5. It was 1996, and I know, Mark, you weren't there. Luke, you were probably still in school like I was. The Oakfield F5 tornado. I don't know if either of you had any knowledge of that or covered that, but, man, what a disaster. And I know that we try to stay positive, but heaven forbid we ever have another one of those things. What do you guys recall about that Oakfield thing?
Oakfield was the one. I came right after Oakfield had occurred. I came the next year in 97, but it was so fresh in everybody's minds. I mean, that's an F5 tornado that came through Fond du Lac County. We've only had 3 F5s ever that we know of in recorded history in the state of Wisconsin. So obviously it was a big deal. It somehow, some way didn't kill anyone, which is a miracle. People were injured, but nobody died. I mean, literally just destroyed the town. They went right through the heart of Oakfield, right? Cut it in half. Some things that worked out well for them. The county fair was going on at Fond du Lac a lot. It was a big deal. And a lot of people were at the county fair. The county fair didn't have any problems at all. And that tornado just tore through. That one is one that, remember, it's just the 25th anniversary. We just had a big segment on it, of course, last week with that 25th anniversary. So anybody that's in that area, in Fond du Lac County, that's one that always is fresh in their minds. And they still take when you have something like that happen, that or Barneveld, those big, huge events, people then forever, for the rest of their lives, they take that weather seriously. And sadly, a lot of other people that don't have things like that, people are like, it's not going to happen here. Oh, the lake saves us. That kind of stuff, which I really work hard to push against as much as I can.
Luke, do you have any memory of Oakfield? I don't know where you were.
Well, I mean, I was, still in high school back then. I was July of 96. So I remember the event vividly. I remember it happening. I was, not on the path to be a meteorologist at that point, I wouldn't say, but I always obviously had a strong interest in weather. You have to go through the coursework to be a meteorologist. So I just remember that. I remember the stories of the cans, the cans that were strewn 50 miles away from, I believe it was the Friday canning company. I mean, Oakfield is the storm. That's the benchmark right now for us. Before then, it was Barneveld. And sadly, we're probably getting in that window where our luck is going to start to run out. We haven't had really, I want to say probably since 2007, that type of devastating tornado where it's, EF3 or greater. I believe that was June 7th of 07, Mark. I could be wrong, but I believe that was one.
You know where I was, Sam. So I was on vacation because anytime there's any kind of severe weather, I somehow managed to be in Minnesota fishing or in Florida with my family.
That's true. The thing we always said when we worked together.
The Stone tornado and the Eagle tornado. I was out of town for both of those. That's a bad feeling though when you are the meteorologist.
I think you were on the golf course for the July 2010 floods.
And then I had to come in. Yes, I had worked.
You were outside for that one.
I had to work. I was working like 11 or 12 straight days. I finally got a day off. I'm on the golf course, and then all hell breaks loose. And we had. I think it was probably close to a dozen tornado warnings that day. But the bigger story was the floods. That was the day of the massive floods in Milwaukee. That's certainly in my top 5 is the massive flooding that happened. 8 inches of rain in a matter of about an hour and a half, 2 hours, especially on the north side of Milwaukee. Sadly, at least one life was lost in that. And that was the same day as the big sinkhole that happened on North Avenue swallowed up the big Escalade. I mean, that's crazy. Still, those kind of images always stay in your head.
So speaking of floods, one that made my list was when the Wisconsin Dells in Lake Delton disappeared in 2008. I just remember seeing the images on TV of this really well-known area in our state where it's a huge tourist destination. And all of a sudden, the lake where the Tommy Bartlett ski show is and all those things, just gone, like literally disappeared. What do you guys remember about that?
I just remember the house, the video of the house
Yes.
getting just sucked away, carried away, and thinking, oh my God, that's somebody's home. And it's just getting washed away like it was a paper cup in a stream. I mean, that is obvious. That's got to be in the top 5, at least of recent history of weather events around here. You just don't see anything like that too much. Thankfully, you know, that whole process of how that lake was formed and, you know, what all happened there obviously had a devastating effect on the end result. But yeah, that was just that was crazy. I didn't at that time, let's see, that would have been 08. I was up north yet, so we didn't go and cover that. I think Mark, you know, obviously the Southeast Wisconsin stations that were there almost daily, right?
Oh yeah, we were there for a good week. It was an incredible event. I mean, you just never expected to see something like that. One, that it was caught on video was pretty remarkable in and of itself. I mean, to see that you're literally watching an entire lake flow into the Wisconsin River. I mean, it was nuts, but it made you think, okay, this is the miniature version of what it was like back when the prehistoric lake, or the lake back after the Ice Age, gave way and it created the dells. And that's why the dells look the way they do, because this massive lake, as it emptied out so quickly, carved its way, and that's how the dells happened. So it was just a miniature version of that.
That's crazy. All right, so here are my top 2, knowing that we covered the Oakfield tornado. We had the floods in Milwaukee, the floods or the lack of water in Lake Delton. Here are my top 2. My second, Luke, you remember this well, April 2018. It was over my birthday. We had over 30 inches of snow here in Northeast Wisconsin. It was absolutely absurd.
Yeah, that one came in 2 rounds. That was the storm where you could infamously go 0 to 30 inches from the snow forecast and still be right. There were portions of our area that picked up a couple inches, like on the order of 6 or 8. And then, yeah, like you said, we got hit here in the valley. I believe in that 24 to 36-hour period. Actually, the 36-hour period, it was a 24.2 inches. But there were spots that were measuring, 30 inches plus with the drifts. And that was insane. Now, the thing that's bizarre about that one is that we had, the biggest snowstorm, or one of the biggest snowstorms ever in the state, happen 6 weeks later, Memorial Day weekend, the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. It was like 98 degrees here in Green Bay. So we went from, a foot of ice on the bay, 2 feet of snow and ice on top. We melted all that off in 6 weeks, and people were enjoying 72-degree bay water 6 weeks after that. That's how fast things can turn around here.
It pretty much guarantees that Wisconsin is the most bipolar weather state in the entire union. It's just ridiculous.
That's what makes it fun. I mean, that's what makes it so interesting to be a meteorologist around here. It's always, always interesting.
You got to always be on your toes. All right, so here's my number 1, and maybe you guys were there. It's the NFC Championship game in 2008. It was if not the coldest, comparable to the Ice Bowl, definitely the coldest since then. I had toe warmers on my cheeks. I had a toe warmer on each of my cheek, one on my chin. This is pre-beard Trevor. Were you guys there? It was ridiculous.
No, I was not there. That obviously ranks up there with one of the coldest games at Lambeau. I've been to some pretty cold games at Lambeau. I believe 2013, maybe early 14, were they in the playoffs? I can't remember. It may have been next year. They were playing the Niners. I remember doing a radio hit with a station out of San Francisco talking about the weather, and we had wind chills, that were pushing 35, 40 below, but nowhere near the actual cold temperatures like what we had for the 08 game. But Lambeau, you know how it is, Trevor. You get your snowsuit on, your snowmobile suit, whatever you wear. You pack in like a sardine. You have a couple cold ones before, and you're fine.
The cold ones are frozen.
Don't
set it down on the concrete. It's not going to make it long.
You couldn't drink a cold one that day. A cold one became a frozen one real fast.
I was not at that. I wish I would have been at that game because it would have been a fun memory. I recall that one directly, and the same one that Luke was talking about. I'll remember this because it's a mistake that I made. that I won't repeat anymore, that I try to teach other young and upcoming meteorologists to not do. I used a computer model that was putting out wind chills, but it was very unrealistic. And I, of course, posted this on social media, and you can still find this today because it just absolutely exploded. And so it was calling for that in the 2013-2014 game of wind chills of like 60, 65 degrees below zero in Green Bay. It was nowhere near that. It was about 30 to 35 below, which is terrible, but it's not 65 below. Well, when I put that image out there, it got shared by all of the guys at ESPN. And so these guys all have all these huge amounts of followers. So the reason why it was cool, it was neat. I was getting shared all over the country. But I knew in my heart it was not going to be the correct forecast. It was not going to be true that it was going to be 65 below. And so I never should have done it. And I've learned this lesson, even though you might think, oh my gosh, this is going to go viral. It's going to be great. If you know in your heart it's the wrong thing and it's not a real forecast, don't do it.
True.
You can still find that today. That thing comes up. Everyone, I had no idea that you put that out there, but every once in a while that will rear its head and somebody in the comments will be like, that was from 2013.
It still comes up. I get it all the time. Anytime it gets cold and everybody's talking about Lambeau, that thing pops in. It's in every Google search.
Shut up and sit down.